Welcome to Integrative You Radio, hosted by Dr. Nick Carruthers and yours truly, Dr. Nicole Rivera. This is the place where you become limitless. We are covering the latest and greatest topics, of course, in a disruptive fashion, around integrative medicine, mental health, and human behavior. We are also covering how those topics affect the human and family dynamics. We will be sprinkling in some truth bombs for our healthpreneurs so they can join us in our mission to evolve healthcare. If you are health curious and growth focused, you are in the right place. But buckle up, because this is real, this is raw, and this is disruptive. This is Integrative You Radio. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Integrative You Radio. So Dr. Nick is going to get to talk about one of his favorite topics today, which is AI, artificial intelligence. And he'll probably,
I was already warned not to get too deep with people.
I already warned him about 5 seconds ago.
We'll see if I obey or not.
This was actually a podcast that I brought to the table. And primarily, the original reason we wanted to talk about this is because, for those of you that don't know, one, I classify myself as an investigator, specifically a health mind-body investigator. And I developed what would you call it? Like a research book that I've never shared with the world. Because it would be pretty hard for people to understand. But I created it because I had to do so much research for every single one of my clients over the past 13 years in order to understand what their results meant, and then to find the research and the data associated with the findings. So I'll give you an example. One, we use a DNA technology. It's called an NLS matrix decoder. And this is something that clients will send us a hair sample, and we will run a couple of different tests using the DNA of the hair. But one of them is a technology called the NLS decoder. It's built on quantum physics, quantum energy. And so in using that, it would show me things that I didn't know what they were. It would show me chemicals that I've never heard of. It would show me toxicities that I was unaware of. And I thought it was really fun because I got to research these things, but the research would take hours. So an example is, if a chemical would come up, like there was a chemical, because we were based in New Jersey, there was a chemical called urotropine that would come up very often. And then urotropine has a couple of different names. It's called hexatramine, and then it also is, the analogy is HMT, or the acronym. And anyway, turns out it's a chemical that's produced by DuPont, and one of the largest factories or plants for DuPont is in Sayreville, New Jersey. And so the amount of
and
hours...
our show just got canceled.
Oh, yeah, I guess I didn't really think about that. But the amount of hours that it would take me to dig up this type of information, because when I would tell people, hey, I see this coming up as a toxicity in your system, one, I want them to understand, how the heck did this happen? And two, is I want them to have a level of awareness of how can you prevent future exposures. So if you're drinking tap water in close proximity to this, zip code of where this plant is, then stop drinking tap water, get a water purifier, drink, distilled water, so on and so forth. So the moral of the story is that over the 14 years, I created a 500-page document that encompasses all of this research. And now, more recently, if I go on Google and I type in a chemical or a toxin, I'm getting information about it that I have never been able to see on a Google search or a web search at all in the past. And so I found it to be very, very interesting that in
And
this
it's coming up through an
era,
AI search. It's not coming up through you
yes,
digging.
exactly. So in this era of AI, it's not just about access to information, but it's essentially access to information that has been suppressed.
Yeah, I mean, I think AI is allowing us to be a lot more efficient in accessing more information, for sure. I think that's part of the algorithm behind it. But I also think on the back end, we're we're getting deeper into this information age. So we're just going to naturally have access to more and more, and it's going to be a necessary, probably evil for some that don't want to see the bigger picture of, not only just the bad, but there's good too. Both sides have been suppressed, kind of keeping humanity numb. But that's like what gets me so excited about AI is the access to more information and the efficiency to it. When you think about most important thing is time and energy. So if we can spend less time figuring out, better results, we're going to have more energy.
And I know that we should definitely address the topic of fears around AI because, there even in the beginning stages, I had my concerns. Not that I had, I still, of course, there's still concerns. It's not just, again, as we always talk about, nothing is one-sided. But I think that what's kind of interesting about what we're talking about here with this accessibility to information through AI associated with health, associated with environmental toxins or environmental factors that can affect health, what I think is really amazing about the AI is that this is not biased information that is being put together by a for-profit company. It's like WebMD has been a standardized place for people to look when it comes to health information. And, there's a lot of jokes that would go on in our practice in our office, and people would say, yeah, I looked up, my toe hurting and it said cancer. And it's funny, but not funny because that's actually the reality for people looking up, a symptom that nowadays it's like, well, it could just be an ingrown toenail, but chances are it's probably cancer. And, people get freaked out like, oh my gosh, I need to get to the doctor because what if I have toe cancer? And now, we're having access to information that is being driven by AI, and it's not necessarily because they're pushing a narrative that is for profit. If you think about WebMD is pushing people to conventional medicine based on fear. It's like, okay, could be cancer. And then what do? You go directly into the medical system, and insurance companies are profiting. The conventional medical system is profiting. They're running CT scans they're charging $100,000 to your insurance. And, and the cycle goes on. So this is one of the benefits of AI is that there is you can speak more to it, but I don't want to say there's no bias at all because I don't want to be polarized,
With
but
AI,
yeah,
the biasism comes on the program that AI runs on, for the most
yeah,
part. When you think about something that's biased, that comes from an emotional imbalance. We have an emotional belief system that something has more benefits or more drawbacks. That creates a bias. AI doesn't have emotions. AI is
yes.
ran on a program. So just as long as the program has been written or has blocks, to remove those biased algorithms, which, unfortunately, a lot of these big time corporations and developers, they want to control people. So they'll have those algorithms in there. Um, but we're getting we're going to have both. When it comes to the fears and you talk about it, you're going to have people with a specific agenda and an unbalanced attachment to greed and power, and they're going to create those. And that's going to be what's called centralized AI. Centralized, it's owned by a group, a corporation, et cetera. And then you're going to have a decentralized version of AI, and that's, open source. That's everything. You can see all the programs. Nothing's hidden. It's should be hopefully designed intelligently, so that it is non quote unquote attached to biasism, emotional control of people. But when we have that data, then it's just, my favorite quote in life is the quality of your life is dictated by the quality of the questions you ask. So if you're going to ask AI a question connected back to the big toe, you could be like, um, hey AI, what if you have a name? Um, what could be the top issues causing physical, chemical, neurological, metaphysical, meridian pain in my big toe? And it would list out, this is connected to L5 nerve. This is connected to this meridian. This is connected, and it could give you all these possibilities, so that we have more awareness, so that we can be like, oh yeah, that skin rash is literally following a meridian. It's a meridian issue, that's connected to this organ. So is it the organ creating the dysfunction in the meridian, or is it just, imbalance of chi flow? I just need some acupuncture or some red light or laser therapy on it. So it can allow us to get more efficient, kind of like all that time you spent creating what I call the Bible. Um, but what's fun now is that you can literally have AI do what you are actually spending the hours doing. So, and that can allow you to what? Take all that time and you can spend it with your kid. Take all that time and you could grow a bigger business. Take all that time and you could take a nap. Like you can use that extra time to serve yourself that you
Yeah.
were putting into something else. And that's a reason that I'm very excited for the potential of AI, because it can actually give us what we're really designed to do, is to live.
And I also think that, for the person listening who, is like, well, how does this apply to me, or how can AI benefit me, is being able to access information that's not solely fear driven. Like you said, and I think that's a huge, huge point that I want to reiterate, is it is the quality of the question that you ask the search engine, you ask the AI. Because for those of you that are business owners, or you're using, AI at all, if it's for because you're an influencer and you're using it for social media, you see online nowadays that there are people with Instagram accounts that are solely helping people with the right quote unquote prompts to put into Chat GPT or to put into platforms like Sintra. And the prompts, when you look at it, it's just hyper specific. It's if you want to grow your social media account, it's giving you, here is the exact way, the exact prompt, the exact phrase of what to ask Chat GPT in order to get hyper specific 30 days of social media content inspiration. And it's usually not a sentence, it's usually a paragraph. And the more hyper specific you are with what you're asking it, the more hyper specific or the better quality of the answer that you get. And so that I think is very, very important. And then the secondary part of it is the fact that most of what we've searched, especially when it comes to health, has been very fear-based. I would even find myself finding these articles of uh I'm looking up something simple and it's going to send me a series of peer-reviewed articles about all of the negative sides of this thing. And you find that you're getting a more balance of information through what AI is producing when you're searching something, especially if it's a hyper specific question.
Yep.
Come on, Nick, you got nothing?
I mean, honestly, that's what people pay us to do, is
Yeah.
to ask better quality questions that nobody has ever asked, and to gather that data so that we can provide a resolution, a solution. That's what I always find funny is that most people come to us seeking to resolve a problem, um, which is just how we're programmed. But it's understanding that if you want to make a change, you have to go farther out. So the story I ever heard is like, if you want to make a change in your community, well, it's impossible to make a change by working in your community, because what dictates your community is the larger governing energy of field, which would be, the state, the country, whatever.
Mhm.
And so if you want to make a change smaller, you have to work at the change bigger. So we're always looking and asking questions with our clients for that bigger picture, because we know if they want to resolve the problem sustainably, that we actually have to work on something that's bigger than the problem.
Mhm.
And they're always kind of blown away because, we're doctors, and that's not
Yeah.
how doctors are trained. Doctors are trained to, oh, you have a problem, let's fix the problem. But that doesn't necessarily increase the quality of life and projection of one.
Well, and I also think that, one of the final points to drive home is that information is not necessarily going to yield great outcomes because information is information. Information has to be paired with critical thinking and it has to be paired with strategy. And, we always say it's not about what you do, it's how you do it. And we've definitely been in an era for a very long time of information, but people are really frustrated at this point because it's a lot of information and it's a lot of mixed information, it's a lot of conflicting information. And especially when you get into the world of health and wellness. I find myself as a practitioner being fucking enraged half the time scrolling through my Instagram account because it's like, be carnivore, no, be paleo or keto or this or that. And I'm just like, take this supplement. This is going to resolve your fucking cellulite. I'm like, oh my gosh, like I can't even. And it's just being able to take that step back with the critical thinking of, you know, okay, is one pill or one diet a fit for everyone? No. Will it serve a purpose at the right time? Probably. But at the end of the day, we are integrated beings. We have an integrated life when it comes to all the things that make up life. Your life is made up of family and relationships and money and purpose and vocation and health. Like it's not one thing. So when we look at health, we need to stop thinking that it's one thing. And it's really just about having the information matched with the strategy that's appropriate for you because keto might be good for you for 2 weeks, but then maybe your body needs something different. And it's hard to have that information unless, you have someone who's asking the right questions and driving the strategy based off of actual data. So this information age that we are in, that's going to only get bigger, I guess you can say, is don't be the person that just gobbles up tons of information and then doesn't know what to do with it. If anything, take in relevant information and then have the right team or the right mentors or the right people to help you use the information to increase the quality of your life.
Yeah, I think one of the simple ways as we're wrapping it up is to think of, you know, because what's most important is our choices in life that dictates supply and demand. So we've already gone through this process of our food, quote unquote, being ruined through this mass production of not caring about the actual nutrients and the quality of the soil, et cetera. It's the same thing that's going to be creating this AI span. So we need to become aware and not just choose blindly that not all food's created equally, not all AI is created equally. So become aware, understand. I'm not saying that centralized is necessarily a bad thing, but you got to, if you're using a centralized system, it's about doing a little bit of research and knowing who created it, what's their intention behind it, and then from that understanding, make decisions. Is this going to better serve me, or should I be actively picking out a decentralized system so that my mind's not just given answers and information that might be polarized. And that is one of the problems that we've had for so long through this, what I call Web 2 internet phase, and moving over to blockchain and AI, is that we're given the opportunity now. And it's luckily we have that opportunity because we didn't in the past, but now it's time to choose differently.
Yeah. And just to simplify that quickly, we have been, no, I just think that just saying, we always say things in different ways. And I don't think what you would just said is overly confusing, but I think what people don't realize is we've been in a centralized system where the information that's available to us on the internet, on the TV, has been controlled. It has been controlled in order to create a lot of the societal norms and the programming, which is a lot of things that we talk about in all of our podcasts. You know, we always tell people it's not your fault. It's not your fault that you don't know how to take care of your health. It's not your fault if you feel conflicted about what to eat. It's not your fault if you don't know how to be the best parent. It's not your fault if you don't know how to run your fucking business. It's just all of the information that we've been given has been very controlled because of a centralized system. And so as we might be apprehensive about this idea of AI and you know have our concerns about it, that is very healthy. But what AI, one of the things that AI is bringing on the positive side is a decentralization so that we have access to more information and more information that is not necessarily being driven by a specific agenda. So again, we always want to be very, very conscious, and we want to critically think, and we want to use our brains as we make decisions for ourselves, our lives, our families. But understanding that, you know, we could fear AI, but it is bringing something that we haven't had in, I want to say, a really long time, maybe ever, which is access to information that is not solely biased for corporations, profit, and government. So we're just going to mic drop there.
I think there might always be that run in the background, but yeah.
Yeah.
You told me not to get deep, so.
When Nick pauses like that, it means like he's about to go deep, but now he's worried about it.
Yes, master. Yes.
All right, guys, we're going to leave it there, and we'll see you on the next one.
We thank you so much for being an avid listener of Integrative You Radio, formerly known as Integrative Wellness Radio. We appreciate all of your support. We love your comments. Please visit us on social media as well as our website to see all of the fun things happening behind the scenes and the new amazing content and courses that is being rolled out on a monthly basis. We hope to see you there.